Kel.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, I always start with this question. It's a hard-hitting one. We'll get straight into it. What is one of the most difficult moments of your life that actually turned out to be a blessing?
I think there was a time I was in a band and we had a contract with Sony, and we were about to sign a contract with Sony. And my partner at the time, we wrote the music together. So he was the guitarist and I was the lead singer. And we had to sit down and kind of have a good look at this contract, where it was a 5-album contract, and we were breaking up at the time. So we turned Sony down because we thought, you know what, we can't be signed to each other in this kind of circumstance. And I think at the time it was devastating because we'd worked so hard and that was our dream to be. And then we got there and we were the ones to pull the carpet out from underneath us. But I think that it changed my course, you know, as far as I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I had of, you know, that probably would have chewed me up and spat me out, I think, in many ways.
Wow. How did you tell Sony that? How'd you break the news?
We've changed our minds. With the band's broken up and they're like, whoa. Well, thank goodness we didn't throw any money at it. I think they were relieved that we called it before we went down any.
And it was a 2-person deal. It couldn't have gone. You couldn't have, no.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we wrote the songs together. So we were a bit like the Divinals.
What were the moments after that like? That must have been a lot to
Really
go through.
tough.
A breakup plus a breakup
Really
with a label.
I actually took a break from music. I had to it was the only time in my life that I thought, I don't know if I can do this. I'm just going to, it's always been a bit of a slog. Amazing, fun, the only thing I want to do. But at the same time, So I think I was about a year in and you know, going from writing prolifically and being on stage and to absolutely nothing and working for my brother. He was in the rag trade. So, and then the music just started to creep back in to my everything. So I remember seeing Sufjan Stevens in concert and it just like hit me like when you see the people that go to church and they're like saved.
Yeah.
I felt like I'd been hit by a lightning bolt, and that after seeing him live that weekend, I went home and wrote a whole EP myself, which I'd never done before because I'd always.
What's a whole EP?
Like an EP is half an album.
Oh, whole EP.
So 5 tunes.
Yeah.
But, you know, over the weekend, 5 tunes, went to the studio on Monday morning, recorded those 5 tunes. And, yeah, so kind of then went down the folk way.
Right.
So it was,
People talk about the struggling artist and all of that thing, almost romantically, but what's the reality of that?
The reality is there is romance. Otherwise, I don't think we'd do it. But sometimes it's just the feeling of not being seen. You know, it's not even paying the bills. I mean, obviously you want to be able to pay the bills, but it's just what's more heartbreaking is when you're playing in a pub and you're like, you know, does anyone care? That's more heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. And sometimes they're the gigs you got to do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that, but that gives you a certain inner strength to get through that and go, you know, it doesn't matter. It's got to be for you. And then when you do get that love back from the audience, the injection it gives you and the life that it gives you, it's like you've been a flat line and you've been.
Yep. And it makes those moments so much better.
And then you're like, oh, I'm going to just keep doing this till I can't anymore. So it's like that. Yeah.
What was it about the Sufjan Stevens gig that moved you?
I think just how raw he was. And I'd just never seen anything so spectacular. And it was kind of like he was a new movement in music that I hadn't really heard before. And it just inspired me so much. And I think having that break from the music myself, it was like all of a sudden I found a vein and it was just ready to go.
I'm back.
Yeah, yeah.
Rewinding back to where it all began, early days, childhood. You've mentioned to me before that music was always there. Why was that? What's your earliest memory? Where did music sort of seep into your life?
I think music, it's funny. My mum, this actually explains it all. My mum gave birth to me or went into labour listening to Neil Diamond's Hot August Nights because she was crazy about him. And so I think even through her pregnancy, she loved music so much and she was always dancing. So I think it was just, and I know a lot of parents love music and I know that that's could be the situation for a lot of people, but I don't know. My mum said, I remember her saying, you could sing before you could speak, and you'd be kind of crawling with a jig, like to the beat, or it was just this innate thing in me. And I don't ever remember thinking, oh, I want to be a musician. It was like, that's just what I'm going to be.
Yeah.
It's,
that is it.
That's it. I can't ever remember thinking anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neil Diamond was playing in the house. Anything else come to memory?
Everything. Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
All the best 70s rock and roll, 80s. Mum was huge. The whole family.
Yeah.
Music lovers.
Yeah.
And I think my great grandmother was an opera singer, and I studied classical opera for 6 years. And I remember saying to my singing teacher, I think I'd like to go to the conservatorium in Italy to study. And she said, darling, you may have the talent, but you do not have the discipline. I was like, well, that's a fair call.
Thanks for that.
So right.
Thanks for the belief.
Yeah. And then again, trajectory changes, But
you have a beautiful voice, obviously.
Thank you.
But like I don't. I would love to have one. When do you realise that you do have a voice and that you have the courage, I guess, to share that?
I think when you're taken and put up on the table and everyone says, sing us a song all the time. So as a child, that's pretty much was performing for anyone. I'd invite my kindergarten teacher home and I'd put on the whole production and my grandfather, every time we went over for family gatherings, it would be like, Kelly's singing now, everyone sit down. So it was just...
Was that ever intimidating though? As a
sometimes.
Young, because you've just brought up something for me. My niece has a beautiful voice and she's about 18 now.
Yeah.
And she has the same thing. Her parents and people say, please, because we just want to hear her sing,
enjoy,
and enjoy it. But she's
shy.
Like, yeah, well, she's just like, stop forcing me.
That's right. My niece is a little bit like that. She's incredibly talented, but she's like, I'm not sure if that's the way I want to go. And she writes these songs and we're all going, this is mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know.
Yeah, in your own time.
But it can be. And I do remember sometimes going, oh, God, do I have to? Why?
Yeah.
Why? But I think in a way it was good because it kicked me up onto that little mini stage.
Yeah.
And,
got over that fear.
Got the confidence going.
Yeah.
And when people say we love your voice, you start to believe it.
It's nice all reassurance.
You go, well, they're the people that love me and I know that they're brutally honest. If it's like, oh, you didn't sing that very well.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. I've seen you even now as a lovely grown adult with your mum and then she gives you little bits of advice.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. It's nice to have that raw honesty and guidance. Early days, you were around 15 and you were in Melbourne.
Yeah.
What was life like then and how did you enter the professional realm of music and
I
vocals?
was in a band at school.
Yep.
And my boyfriend was the bass player and they were such great musicians. So it was Danny Sullivan and Ben Sullivan. So Ben was the drummer and their father was Peter Sullivan, and Peter is an incredible composer. He did a lot of TV jingles and film scoring and what have you. So he came and saw a band practice and said, do you want to come to the studio sometime? So he had a studio in South Melbourne. And so I just started singing TV commercials and jingles when I was 15. And then that led to doing backup vocals and so I'm like, I'm out of here. School can see you later. I've been waiting for the day to leave. And so, I left school at 15, moved to the city and just started to be in the live music scene and singing and getting paid for it at night time and in the studio during the day.
Wow.
And bumping into John Farnham and Olivia Newton-John and Boom Crash Opera and Kate Sobrano and all the Tina Arena. Like, it was the hub and it was an exciting time. So to be around that at 15, it was huge. I mean, I had my own apartment at 16.
Wow.
I was all grown up.
That's young. And you would have had to grow up quick.
I did, but I've always been growing up too fast. You know, like I could not wait for my set of keys and my handbag and get out the door and that's it. Bye, everybody. I'm not coming back.
Yeah. You want to roll your sleeves up and get into the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you're 15, you're in, I assume, pubs and bars. Was that allowed?
I know. I often wonder. No one said anything.
You must have looked.
It was the 90s, so we got away with it. But I don't know. I think because we sounded so good.
Yeah.
They must be older.
Keep her on.
That's
She's
it.
keeping the punters coming in.
Yeah. So no one said anything. But different days back then too.
And you said rock and roll. Was that the genre you were into at that stage?
Very much.
Yeah.
Kind of like rock pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And so at some point in this timeline, you've decided, you know what, I've had enough of Melbourne. There's a big bad world out there. I'm going to go to Europe.
Yeah.
How did that decision come about and what did that look like?
I left Melbourne really because I was just too cold. I loved Melbourne.
That's why I left Melbourne too.
Yeah, I was just cold. I was like, I can't do another winter. And so I went to Sydney and that was warmer and that was great and ended up staying for a long time. But my mum and my brothers had moved to Noosa. So I went up and visited them to try and warm up and then I ended up staying for, a few years because I was like, well, this is great. I might as well stay here. But there was no scene on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
None at all. And that's when I, met my daughter's father and life took a total different turn.
Yeah.
And so
what happened?
Well, I ended up having a baby a month before my 21st. Wow. And it was definitely not something that I would have thought even 2 years earlier because I'm off. I'm going to go to LA. I had friends who were there and they were like, come over and we'll do some singing and da-da-da. But anyway, so I basically spent my 20s being a mum and kind of putting my music on hold. I'd sing in bands and things, but it's, I'm singing in reggae bands now because that's all that was up here with, with big Māori boys and it's like, here's this girl with blonde hair singing Jarman. But it was really fun and, I just had this drive. I knew I was going to do it. I just knew it wasn't the right time because I wanted to be home and be with Toy and then I think the moment she kind of became a little bit more independent, then I could start doing. When I say independent, like she didn't need me to put her to bed. She was old enough to have a babysitter. Then I would go and do the gigs.
Yeah. What was it like when you first found out you were pregnant?
Yeah. Well,
shockwaves through the family?
No, not at all. It was kind of like no, not shockwaves. It was like, oh yeah, it's kind of what you did in Queensland at that time. Everyone got pregnant.
Right.
So and she was just the light of everyone's life. Toya's this little Māori American Indian, from her dad's side. So a little Cocoa Pop we used to call her. And, even with her growing up, her first jobs were playing. So we'd go and do gigs together as the Elsams.
Wow.
So she's 14, 15, playing pubs and and playing bass and piano and singing. And
Right.
it's like, we've got to pay the rent, babe. Let's go to a gig.
Following in your footsteps.
Well,
in
me
some way.
forcing her. But she's such a talent.
Right.
And I'd always, you know, like she was...
She's vocals, guitar.
Yeah, she had like many different music scholarships at different schools. But being gypsies, as I was growing up, we'd always move around. And then with her and I, we were always moving around. So we had a big chunk of time in Sydney. And kind of that's when I started to... that's when I first saw vocalists singing with DJs in King's Cross. I was kind of like, what's this? Because I've always been in the live scene. I was like, this is really cool. And it wasn't until I went to Europe and I went to France to visit my brother and, yeah, just kind of hanging out with art students. And that's really how and then going to these warehouse parties and meeting DJs, and they're like, oh, you're a singer. Someone says you're a singer. Do you want to sing to this? And they're just playing a beat and you're kind of ad-libbing. And this is really fun. And then that's how I learnt to DJ.
Right.
I never, ever had plans to be a DJ. That was never a thing that I thought, oh, I'm going to be a DJ. That's going to be something. So, you know, they'd say, I'm going to go for a cigarette or have a break, press that, and that. And so I was literally terrified. But it's like, what's a house party? What's the worst that can happen?
One of my big regrets is I've spent a lot of time in Europe, but I never got to those famous warehouse parties they talk about in Germany, Berlin, those places.
Yeah.
Paint the picture for me. What does that look like?
It was a different time. It was obviously before phones. Like now it's just such a different thing. Even though in Germany your phones are off, you can't take your phones in. You either leave them at the door or they put stickers over them. If they find you with your phone, you're out. But I don't know, it was just a sense of freedom, and it was also new. It was before Instagram. It was a time when there was a sense of adventure with it all, and people were really creating. And it was really what was happening in that very moment, not what happened this morning, what's going to happen tonight, really being present. And I think phones have a big, I think that's the difference. So
I saw a meme or a video, a social post on this the other day. You might have seen it, where it was contrasting, and the shot was behind the DJ into the crowd, and it was present day. Everyone had a phone on the DJ, and then back in the day, just people being present as you described. And someone said in the comments, like, it was really interesting. It was like, now DJing is all about the ego of the DJ.
Yeah.
But back then it was about the music.
That's right.
Do you feel that's true?
I do. I think that in a lot of ways, I think that it's very difficult for DJs now, really good DJs and DJs that have been around for a long time, to deal with the phenomena of what this whole landscape is now. Because back then everyone was dancing and they're in the music, they're feeling the music. Now everyone's just staring with their phones. The connection's gone. So it's become this thing where DJs now are playing to cameras because everyone's got a camera, and it's all about the algorithm and the hits and how many da-da-da-da-da-da. But yeah, it's a tricky one. It's definitely destroyed a lot of the. It's definitely destroyed the vibe. Like when you look at those early 90s parties and everyone's just having the time of their lives. It's like, can't we do that again? Yeah. Well, they do in Europe. We just don't see it so much in the clubs.
Yeah, whilst no one's filming it, so we don't see it.
That's right. Hence
that's what makes it great.
That's exactly what it is. We don't get to see it because it's not filmed.
So it's still around. It's still possible.
In Germany, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite sort of France or Germany for that sort of scene?
For me, it's Germany. Yeah. I think I played a really great club last year called Sisyphus in Berlin with Gorge, who's one of my songwriting partners. And it was probably one of the greatest nights of my life. Yeah. Like everything that you can imagine what playing in Berlin would feel like.
Yeah.
And the amount of scope and depth and how in the audience was, and just the whole feeling of Sisyphus. It's like, have you ever heard of a festival called Rainbow Serpent?
I have.
Yeah. So Sisyphus is like if Rainbow Serpent and Revolver had a love child, that's what Sissy's like.
Right.
And it's just, incredible. And like the old days, everyone's completely in it for the moment.
Yeah.
Like how some festivals are, you know, you get that feeling of, you know, you don't have to catch the bus at 4:00. You're here all night.
Got nowhere to be.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so you spent some time in Europe. You've been enlightened in this point of your life by this experience of DJing.
Yeah.
Did you come away from Europe like feeling like you had the skills to be a DJ?
No, not really. I think if anything, what happened in Europe was because I was doing these art house parties, that's when because I started first DJing in the fashion scene. So that's really the entry point. It wasn't, and it was just organic. Someone, one of the students who got a job with one of the fashion houses recommended me to do an after party. And then that was so much fun, and it just was word of mouth from there. So, and even when I first started DJing, my DJ name was Nikki Desson, and she's a very famous artist from the 60s. So in Europe, everyone knows it's a DJ name. But when I came back to Australia and I started to do a lot of runway under my brand, Nikki Desson, everyone's calling me,
I thought
hi,
your
Nikki.
name was Nikki.
Yeah. And a lot of people, if someone yells out Nikki, I'll turn around. And so I kind of, when I came back to Australia, fell into that fashion scene and doing those kinds of events.
Oh, yeah.
And then you know, that's just all about mood. You know, it's not about trying to keep a dance floor or the latest tune. This is about creating a soundscape.
Yep.
So that's kind of really where I started creating soundscapes and doing campaigns, writing songs or music for brands.
Is this as the models are walking down the runway or the whole event?
Yeah, that, then the after party.
Yep.
I mean, some of the runway stuff, you know, you're working on the music for 3 weeks in the lead up because they're quite, you know, everyone's got to sign off on what's going on, but then writing music for the brand campaigns. So I've done that for Age and for Albus Lumen and a few different labels. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So it's probably a misconception that it's playing a playlist as a DJ. What is it? Obviously, you add vocals, you add lots of different elements to the way you do it.
Yeah.
Can you provide a little snapshot or insight into what is happening behind the scenes?
Well, it's funny because it's even when you say that, it's interesting because when I came back from Europe and I was doing the fashion shows and I was doing the cool events, and then all of a sudden I started to do gigs for Google and da-da-da-da-da. And then I did a really big gig for the YouTube Music Festival, and I had to climb 2 stories of scaffolding to get up to the DJ booth, and I was playing above Panau. So, and they had all of these amazing artists on, but I'm the DJ, so I'm not playing my own music. I didn't have any of my own music to play. And that kind of watching and then doing like Louis Vuitton with Flume and doing, you know, whatever gigs I've done with whoever, Groove Armada and da-da-da-da. And I'm thinking, I need to be writing my own songs.
Right.
This is what I need to do. It's like it's the event DJ, the cool DJ that's going to have an expiry date, and I need to now build a career. So when I first started singing, I would never sing and DJ. And it wasn't until one of my first labels, and I sat down with Vicious in Melbourne, and I remember John Corse, who's the godfather of house music in Australia, and he said, "Kel, you got to be singing and DJing." I'm like, "Yeah, really? Isn't that kind of?" Because I didn't think it was a big deal. I was like, "No, shouldn't I just concentrate on being a DJ?" He goes, No.
Yeah.
That's your point of difference. And it was like I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. You know, like when you can do something and you're kind of like, "Well, really? All right."
But that's the thing. That's the thing that you can do.
That's the thing. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, that is my point of difference. So and writing, and now I'm always singing on gigs. But like 5 years ago, I did not pick up the mic.
Yeah.
I probably didn't have the confidence to either, you know. So, but sorry, I went on a tangent then.
No, I love that. I mean, once you came back to Australia, you kept developing your skill as a DJ, but you had that extra string on your bow to sing and I think so. Just to provide some context on how we met, it was around New Year's Eve time, about 10 years ago in Noosa. I went to Little Sister, a little bar in the junction there, and a fair few pints or beers were had, but we got talking, you and Kai, your partner, and we just learnt a little bit about each other.
Yeah. It's kind of like, what do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? What are you interesting people do? I can tell you're interesting, but what do you do? And you explain what you do, and it was incredible. And I said, I'm getting married in 12 months. Yeah. Are you free?
Yeah. And I'm like, I'll make it happen.
You said that, which was incredible. And so that's how we connected. I think through that journey, I probably learnt more about you and heard your beautiful vocals. And I was like, that's what I want. Like, I would love for you to sing at our wedding, which you did as well. Such a special, such a unique talent and an incredible thing.
Yeah.
But that gets me on to the importance of connection and relationships and how you strike up those conversations.
Yeah.
Is that something you're conscious of, you're aware of, or has it just always happened that way?
I think I've always been chasing it. So it's funny when people say, how did you go from being a music stylist? Because that's what I used to call myself. I'd never call myself a DJ. I was a music stylist.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have the confidence to call myself a DJ. And I was kind of stylising soundscapes and vibes.
Yeah.
So anyway, how did you go from that to releasing and writing your own music? How does that happen?
Yeah.
And it's like, I knew no one in the industry here, like nobody. And every gig I did, if I saw someone, because I'd play a lot with live musicians, I'd be like, do you write? Do you write? Do you write? Do you write? Do you write?
Yeah.
And always trying to, who am I going to write this music with?
Yeah.
Because I needed some guidance and I can write a folk album, but how am I going to write a house music album?
Yeah.
And I found someone, and then we started, and it was just before COVID, and and we still write together. So I've always been tenacious in that way, because I think I've just been so hungry. It's just in me, and sometimes shy. Like, I'm super shy when I'm meeting famous people or someone I admire. I'm in the corner. I can't even come up and say, hi, da-da-da-da. I'm like, if they don't come over and say hello, I'm just going to have to leave.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just too shy. So,
what's it like you've been in rooms with, many, many famous people, Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oscar, you name it. What's it like in those rooms?
And it's electric. It's electric. It's like when I did that Elvis premiere, that was a really big one, because it was on the Gold Coast, and it was really their party, because it was shot on the Gold Coast. So all the cast, all the crew, and every other premiere was like for the people. But and they invited like 1,500 guests, but it was all really a party for them to celebrate. And Baz lives on the Gold Coast. Right. So and it was like, it was just surreal. And even when I did a gig for Christian Louboutin, he came out to Australia for the very first time, and I was told, listen, he loves to dance. You're going to be probably the most important thing at the party. And I'm like, this is just mind blowing.
No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
Did you say, what is he like? But
he was just beautiful. So he came in and he was at the back of the room, and I just watched him dance across the dance floor to the point where he's right in front of the booth, and I'm just watching him dancing with all these stars, like Kelly Rowlands from Destiny's Child was there, Boy George, like a whole list of people. Yeah,
just a few music icons.
Just a few, and some Hollywood stars, and there's a great photo of him kissing my hand over the DJ booth, and I'm like, I'm been kissed by the king. That's it. I'm done.
I love that photo.
Yeah.
I'll put it up.
It's a really an amazing one. So Yeah, it's electric. And you kind of feel like it gives you so much drive and inspiration to go, okay.
Music's the ultimate icebreaker too, isn't it?
It is.
Because people, when they're nervous, can just, and if there's no music, just get a little bit.
My gosh.
But music allows people to loosen up.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. No, it's interesting to watch too when you start doing a party, you know, and everyone's a little bit stiff and you know, you're not playing the bangers. You're not playing, like, you're just easing in and you're playing some nice stuff, and then to watch, you know, after a glass of wine, everyone starts to have a little chat and loosen up, and then at the end of it, it's like they're jumping and hitting their heads on the roof.
And I've seen you on your stage at work, whether it be the Noosa Surf Festival or Food and Wine Festivals, and you are watching the crowd. Like, you are very in touch with the mood and what's going on, and you change the frequency to suit what's going on. And at those events there is a lot of alcohol, and you sit, you play with that, and then you start getting your requests, and you're like, get away.
Sometimes if I'm being really nice, I'm like, come on, bring it up, because you know, like, sometimes a request can be exactly what's needed, particularly if you are you know, sometimes
you be careful. You're opening the door to requests.
No. You go, like, there's certain times where it's like someone has requested something. I'm like, that's perfect, and then you drop it, and the place goes, and I didn't even think to do it. So I'm not against it. It's just when people throw their phones up in your face, and that rarely happens to me, because I think people just know. Don't do that.
don't be that person.
But what I love about it is I am that kind of DJ, and I can say that now. I'm not a music stylist.
When did that change?
Well,
how many years ago do you think you went from music
I think that
stylist?
probably changed maybe 4 years ago. I'm kind of
that
like,
recent. Really?
because I've been professional. I've been doing this full time for 10 years, but it took me a good maybe 6 years to kind of go, maybe I can call myself a DJ.
Yeah.
Which sounds ludicrous, because I'm playing Revolver and I'm playing 161 and I'm playing Sisyphus and I'm playing these music festivals. I am, but it's just always that inner, because I don't know.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, and coming from a live music thing. But I think how important, it's so important when you watch, you know, DJs, and they've got their set list, they've got what they're going to play, and they're not going to deviate from that, and that's it. That's fine. But my career, this is my full-time job, is because I need to be able to move between the lanes for the work. If I'm just that one genre, I'm not going to be able to do this full time. So, and because of my knowledge of music and where I've come from, you know, I can go anywhere. I've got no problem dropping a country tune in the middle of something. Obviously, it's not going to work in some places, but, you know, in some of these fun events that I get to do, like the surfing festival or Grand Prix or Australian Open or whatever, you know, it gives you this open platform. Yeah. And as long as the music's good, it doesn't really matter what the genre is.
Yeah. You talk about living your life in reverse. What do you mean by that?
Because I think I was so quick to get out of school and get out into the big world, and then I ended up having a baby at 20, and then in my 20s, when everyone's going off into the world and partying, I was at home with doing the opposite. So it wasn't until I was 28, 29 that I actually felt like I was in my 20s, because even at 22 I felt like I was 50. Like, I was like, I'm exhausted. This is tough. But I wouldn't change it, because now, like, Toya's older now, and now I get to have this career. If I had have had her in my 30s or maybe my early 40s even, I wouldn't be doing this. So it's all worked out exactly how it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we spoke about this off camera and earlier. You're living your life in reverse in some ways, because you're a young mum.
Yeah.
And you went through that earlier than what you may have expected.
Yeah.
Now you feel like your career is
Now I'm a cool mom.
Now you're a cool mum, cool DJ mum.
Yeah.
But what does that look like now in terms of like travel and work?
Yeah.
And going to Revolver.
I know.
And going to the Grand Prix and
Yeah.
Europe, and you're doing all
Yeah.
these incredible gigs around the world. What does that entail, and does that take a tax on just the sleep?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. The sleep thing is a thing. I love it. I love traveling. I love meeting new people. I love seeing new places. It's inspiring. And because I didn't get to do it in my 20s and even in my 30s, really, it wasn't until I started DJing. So it's really only the last 10 years that I've been able to see the world and see it through work, rather than backpacking around and doing it that way. So I'm really blessed, and I pinch myself. But the jet lag, the lack of sleep, the amount of hours on the road, and it is pretty lonely in a sense. I never feel lonely. I know some of my colleagues talk about how hard it can be being away from family and friends and being on the road by yourself. But I'm never far from a Netflix movie, which always keeps me company, and writing and having that space and creating. And I'm more than happy to take myself out to dinner. I remember once upon a time, like the thought of going to dinner by myself was just, oh my God. And now I'm like, where's the wine list? Is this your best table?
What a beautiful place to be. I think that's, I love that in people, the ultimate when you're comfortable being by yourself.
Yeah, and it's taken me a long time.
Yeah.
To feel in my skin. And I feel like that's only, and my husband's got a big part in that. I even remember when we first got together, it was really just after I started DJing, and even then I would be like, oh, I'm getting booked to do some of these gigs, and I can see the faces on some of these young girls who've booked me. It's like, oh my God, is she the DJ? How old is she? It's like, oh my God, what am I doing? Kai's like, it's in your head. Just stop that. Stop that. You walk in there and you da-da-da. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You just toughen up, Buttercup. You tell them through your music, don't get into it. And because he's German, it's a very different, there's a certain sense. Yeah.
Say it how it is. Yeah.
And there's a sense with him, he's really in his own skin. So I learnt that from him, and yeah, I think it's only been maybe the last 2 years that I've gone, oh yeah, I'm good now.
Run with it.
Yeah, I'm good now. I'm not rattled. I might get nervous over things, but only good nerves. Excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've had a massive 5 years, or since you've been calling yourself a DJ, the last 4 years, it's worked out pretty well.
It has.
You've gone number one on ARIA charts.
Yeah.
Is that reaffirming? That must feel good.
It actually really did, because even when that was Mark Maxwell. So he's a buddy of mine who I met on the Sunshine Coast. He was a neighbour. It's like, what do you do? I'm a music producer and DJ. So am I.
It's convenient.
Yeah. So no, it is really. It's. I kind of feel like now I'm really concentrating on the songwriting, and even though this year I've been on the road a little bit more than I anticipated, I've still got like a whole bunch of tunes coming out towards this second half of the year. Every other year for the last 5 years, I've had already 3 songs out by mid, and I just thought of that today. But that doesn't worry me, like I'm not set on an agenda.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of going with the flow, and even with the songs, just writing from my whatever comes through. Yeah. It's like I don't really even feel like sometimes I even write them. Like I just, if I'm in that right headspace, it almost feels like I'm channeling something. So
do you have a advice or process or how you get into that zone? People talk about creative process or how do you find your breathing?
Yeah. It's such a big thing. Just finding that still space, and also not critiquing yourself. I always used to critique as I wrote. Oh, that's not cool. That's da 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 da. It's like no, none of that. Because you might go through a lot of drafts. Look, the first draft is just about the melody, and you might get a couple of words in there lyrically that you go, oh, that's cool, but the rest is really not great. I'll go back in and write it, and that's when and then it all keeps, it's like being a sculptor and you're moulding or chipping away at a stone, and it just starts to come to life the more love you give it without being judgmental. So I think that judgmental, it kills the creativity. It stops that channel.
Yeah.
If you just keep really like, it's all good, just let it flow. Let it flow. And if it's not that song, it'll be another song.
Yeah.
But I get really, I don't ever feel like I write songs and I go, oh, well, that one didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, they all work.
Sure. You don't have that curse of perfectionism. Everything has to, like, it's more about the making it, creating.
I think if anything, it's kind of, you can really get stuck in a mousetrap trying to get it to the most perfect, especially at this level. I'm not Rufus, I'm not Pharrell. I'd love to be able to have the money. And
not yet. Well, you never will be.
No,
because you're
because
better.
I'll be me.
You'll be you.
I'll be me.
You'll be you.
But just to have that luxury of the big studio, the sound, the time, the money, what that can do in production is huge. And, sometimes you don't even need all that. It's just a laptop, but it's just having the time. I don't have a lot of time. But that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that because, I've got to make some money and get out there and play. Songwriting's, it's nice. The money trickles in, but it's the gigs that pay the way until you write a hit tune, and then it just happens. And I think that whole idea of writing a hit song, I'm not interested. If it happens, it happens. And sometimes when you don't least expect it, they're the ones that, happen.
Has that been the case for, you've had, I'll get this number wrong, but multiple tracks in the ARIA charts. How many?
I think 9.
9?
Something. Yeah.
Nice. Gonna hit double figures soon, I reckon.
Yeah.
With those tracks were you like, oh yeah, this is a banger? Did you know, or was it?
No, always like my very first signed song was Zephyr, a song called Zephyr, and it was with a Melbourne label, and I was kind of like, a friend of mine heard it and he said, do you mind if I send this to my mate? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And they were like, we'd love this tune. I'm like, are you sure? They had to convince me. I'm like, I don't know if this will do very well. I don't know if it's very melt. And they're like, we love it. How about trust us? I'm like, oh, okay, I'll imagine that. Okay, so I did. And then it went to number 5 in its first release, like first week. Actually, it went to number 6 in the pre-release, and then the following week when it was released, it was number 5. And I'm like, I can't believe this. And so that just made me think, that's kind of when I stopped to critique or have an expectation. If you have an expectation, most of the time it's not going to work out that way. So you just kind of let it go. You create it, you do it, you let it go, move on to the next one. Yeah. Obviously send it love and hope it does well. But you just don't know. Yeah. Like sometimes, I had one particular song that I had a few labels fighting over, and it's a great song. It's good, but I didn't think it was one of the best songs. And I think, oh, how does that? People have got different tastes, and so you just do the work, release it. But my biggest thing is like ARIA obviously is Australia, but I do a lot of work with a German label called 8-Bit. And so it's deep house and patchouli, and anyway, it's the international DJ chart, so it's Beatport and Traxsource. So that means, and even Apple Music. So it's been really interesting to get massive traction on those platforms because it's outside of Australia. And Apple Music, I think now like 16 or 17, 18 countries that it's been in the top 10. My tunes, my collaborations. Wow. So it's interesting to kind of get those stats
Yep.
And even Dom Dollar had one of my tunes, or a remix of a tune of mine that Market Memories did, and it sat in his track IDs on Spotify for 9 months. So then you're watching the stats in America and you're like, America's my biggest region.
Right.
But a lot of that's because of him.
Yep.
So it's interesting
When you're touring.
when
the
it
States.
gets to rub off. I'm going to go over in August.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
going over in August. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Incredible. You should be proud of yourself.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I think it's like, you know what it's like. I mean, when we met 10 years ago and where we are now and how much we've both grown into our businesses
Yeah.
and what we do
Yeah.
and our creativity. And it's like, and you're so busy, but to stop and take a breath and kind of go, wow, you know what, this is pretty cool.
I think that's what I think you have this beautiful inner drive. You just, you can see it and feel it, and you just, it carries with you.
Yeah.
I think I do too.
Yeah, you do.
And I get impatient.
Sure. Oh, me too. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I just want to rush, get there. But when you do look back, and that was 10 years ago we met.
Yeah.
You go, wow, a lot has happened in 10
a lot
years.
has happened.
A lot changes.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a team now.
Yeah.
You know,
Amazing.
I'll get a team soon.
Amazing. Well, you should. You should. So
Soon.
you don't have to do all the things.
That's right.
But yeah, a lot can change. You are a very talented woman, and you come from a very talented family. I've had the pleasure of meeting many of them.
Yeah.
One of which was the captain of the Wallabies.
Yeah.
One is a environmental guru.
Yeah.
Your mum is a beautiful artist and creates beautiful children's books.
Yeah.
It's creative, and
Yeah.
And Rory, of course, creates beautiful spaces. Why? How? Well, you're all doing these amazing things. You're all these huge high achievers.
Everyone says, a lot of people say that. They're like,
Yeah.
hey, what did your parents do? I said, you know what they did? They did nothing. They let us be still and didn't push us and didn't force us into – it wasn't about the grades at school. It wasn't like, now this is a really bad report card. And when I say they did nothing, what I mean by that is that they nurtured us in the right way to have a go and follow your passion. And because we were gypsies growing up, they were kind of a boho. So we kind of was like, oh, yeah, we'll give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? And I think having that space of what's the worst that can happen frees you into giving stuff a go.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. And I totally get what you mean. Like they did nothing. And I think that's paying the ultimate respect from the parent to the child is to go, no, I trust that you can create and do whatever you like.
Yeah.
You know, the opposite we see so much where the parent says, well, I don't think you should do that.
That's right.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
Or,
because that won't be enough money. Or if you don't get those grades, you're not getting into that, da-da-da.
Yeah. Really can be confining.
No, mum's always been amazing like that. And she's incredibly talented and creative. So to see that in her children, but, you know, ultimately it comes down to also being a good person.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you see much of each other in the family? Do you bounce off each other or do you all run your own race?
No one really does. No, I mean, no. Like, no one's calling me, Kel, what's the latest song out so I can play it? It's like, if I see them, I go, do you want to hear my latest song? That's, you know, everyone's super busy. And when we get together, we don't even really talk about that. So, but, you know, everyone is, though, they are very supportive of me and proud, and my nieces or my niece and nephews, and it's fun to watch, you know. It's good.
You're about to be a lot closer though. Some life changes coming up. Can you tell us a bit about what's on you in 2025?
2025. So we've been on the sunny coast now for, when did we move up here? 2017. Full time we've been up here, and so now we're moving to Byron, which is going to be closer to, you know, some of the fam bam down there, and good for Kai because Kai's a wood sculptor artist, and he's lived there before, and it's just I think it's gonna be it just feels right, you know. We've got some really good friends there, and all of his German buddies are there, and because I do so much traveling. I think it'd be good for him just to be able to have that sense of social life, because he can be a bit of a hermit, and he's fine with
right
that.
at home.
Yeah,
He'll be right at home in Byron.
I think so. I think it'd be really good, and I think we love the Sunshine Coast. Like it's a bit of a, but at the same time, it's like, well, we can always come back. It's always, I think, like we were talking about this before, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, and I think as a creative person, there's always that little bit of push, because yes, it's nice to have things just so, but I don't know, maybe it's because I went to like 5 different primary schools and 4 different high schools. I think I've just got this travelling thing in me, a little, that little bit of a gypsy. So I'm not, and Kai's the same. So packing our bags and moving doesn't seem like a big deal. So yeah, give it a go.
Love it.
Yeah.
Does it ever get easier, that getting out of your comfort zone for you?
I think so. I think it is getting easier, because the more you do it, the more you do it, You
survive it and you go, oh, I'm still here. I'm still alive.
Yeah. And it's like, you're not making terrible decisions. It's just, it can be that sliding doors. You either go left or right. And that way takes you that way, and that way takes you that way. But you just, as long as you're picking somewhere to go, if you're just not even jumping on the train, then for me that gets a little bit stagnant, and I need that. I like it, even though I love the tranquility. And Sunny Coast has this really, it's like calm energy, and I love that, because when I come off and I need that space, so I've just got to make sure Byron's not too much. But we're old enough now. We're not party animals anymore.
Might get drawn into the Byron party scene
No,
again.
no. If anything, I'll just be playing the tunes.
What's the dream? What's the dream for you?
Dream.
5-10 years. We don't have to put a time on it.
Yeah.
But what would you like?
I think doing what I'm doing, but doing more of it, which sounds silly, but writing and really getting in a rhythm with that. I think because I've been moving around so much, I'm a little bit like, okay, what's today? What's going on today? It's kind of like getting through the calendar. I think I'm in 10 years' time, I see myself being a lot more settled, not traveling around as much. Like I'm on a plane every week. That's a bit crazy. I joke that I'm radioactive, because it's like, it's not a joke, I probably am. But I am looking forward to just being still, but always creating and really getting into songwriting and writing for other people, which I'm doing anyway, but more of that as well. And maybe mentoring. Yeah.
That sounds like a beautiful life.
Yeah.
You're living it, you're breathing it already.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what happens next, because you're continually putting yourself outside that comfort zone where all the exciting stuff, happens.
That's where it flows.
That's where the gold is.
Yeah.
I like to finish off with this question. Where is Kelly Elsom most at peace?
Walking the beach. I really love it. That's my complete, that's my time. Don't take my phone, just walk the beach, get all the negative charge, the sun. That's why the thought of, like, we were even thinking, could we move to Tasmania? It's like, yeah, we could. It's beautiful, but it's just too cold. I need that warmth, and so I think that's that. And if I can be greedy, recording. I love recording and being in the studio. Love it. So they're my 2 happy places.
Beautiful. Cal, thank you so much for taking the time to chat and share a bit about what you do and what lights you up.
Yeah.
I love it. Can't wait to be on the dance floor wherever you're playing next.
Yeah. Well, you're going to come and shoot for Noosa Food and Wine.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Can't wait. That's going to be great.
Gonna be...
And my mum, who's your number 1 fan, she'll be there. She'll be there as well.
She is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
So we'll be front row.
That's amazing. Oh, thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Cal.
Yeah, pleasure.